Hello, I'm here to give my final opinions on the October 14th, 2019 meeting. This time I'll be posting the entire meeting. It's well over an hour long. Most of the meeting is taken up by the issues on the noise ordinance. And although it's rather long, it's a very interesting conversation. So I want to just touch on a couple items before we go to that meeting. And the first thing I want to talk about is the fund transfer policy. And what you'll see is the slide presentation malfunctioned, so they had to give a quick presentation on it by one of the finance people. I've been trying to get them to implement a fund policy for quite a few months. And Mr. Acoustics has fought me on this and resisted it, but we're finally at the point where it looks like we're going to get a fund transfer policy. This was indicated by the auditors when they did the forensic audit for the Running Country Club, where funds that were designated for capital improvements were transferred improperly without board approval and used for operating expenses. That cost us a lot of money because the funds from the bond issue were tax-free as long as we used them for capital improvements. But when they started using them for operating expenses, and we're talking well over $2 million, it became taxable. And so we had to refinance the bond and make it a tax type of situation. Very expensive to the taxpayers, very bad decision by the Board of Supervisors at that time. But they were advised by, guess who? The solicitor, who didn't know. So the fund transfer policy basically says that if you set up in the budget and plan for specific transfers from one fund to another, no board approval is necessary at the time of the transfer, which makes sense because it's in the budget, and when they approve the budget, they're approving the future transfers. But any other transfers not in the budget must be approved and recognized by the Board of Supervisors at a public meeting. So we'll be able to hear them talk about these transfers now. The problem that I saw was they transferred $7 million in 2018 from our sewer fund into the general fund. And you'll see in other videos where I ask Mr. Acoustics and I asked Mr. Granger in another meeting if they know where these funds came from and what they're used for. And they said they didn't know. Well, we know. We have minutes from previous meetings where it was discussed. The $7 million is part of a jumbo CD that was earning over 5%. And the minutes tell us that the purpose that they designated this money for was to pay off the sewer debt. So it was sort of looked at as a sinking fund. But it was also clear that if they required this money for maintenance or repairs of the sewer plant, it could be used for that as well. But they never used it for that. You know, remember part of their excuse for selling the sewer plant was no maintenance was done. They didn't have the money. Well, it was sitting there all the time. So now what they've done is they transferred this money from the sewer fund, which is to be used to pay off the bonds. It'll pay off about half of the outstanding debt, or maybe just a little less. So they moved it into the general fund, into a capital fund, and I believe their plan is to use this money to buy the promenade and use additional monies for buying this 140 acres of swampland near the river where they're planning to build a waterfront community. Okay, so get your pocketbooks out, get ready to spend, spend, spend. But like I said, I think it's a misappropriation, and we're going to talk to the proper authorities soon about this situation and see what comes up. But we will have a fund transfer policy very shortly, according to the board. Then they also will talk about the per capita tax. And Michelle Gilbert talks about the per capita tax, and you'll hear me speak out from the audience because she's not quite accurate about how the per capita tax works, where the information comes from. We had a solicitor who claimed it was collected by some other, like the EIT tax bureau, but that's not the case. Our tax collector collects it. Our tax collector sends the bills out. The problem is with the identification of who has to pay that tax. And there's different reports that come to the board. One is from the school, and another one is from the county, where it's a delinquent tax report, which has every property owner in the township. The problem is they're not easily identifiable. But they all go to the Board of Supervisors. I know the delinquent tax report does. It's supposed to be reviewed by statute, review that and put any information on it that they're aware of people who are not on the list. One of those people who would have reviewed the report but never put their name on it was Lisa Vanderlane, who was also a member of a tax collection committee and was put on that committee as a voting member. So she's not, she is very aware of the tax situation around here, and I'm still waiting for the board to act on the fact that she hasn't paid her taxes in like the past 10 years. At least that's my opinion on this from what I've investigated. So the per capita tax is still an issue. The Board of Supervisors have not indicated what they're going to do about a former supervisor who evaded these taxes, among other taxes, by the way. Where we go from here. We know that in 2020 they intend to eliminate the $5 per capita tax that the township collects, but we will still pay the $10 per capita tax to the township school district. The next issue was they started talking about a golf course company from Pittsburgh they want to pay $8,500 to give us a master plan. This is a very interesting discussion. You should pay close attention to it. Some of our guys that are very familiar with the course say they didn't hear about this until a couple days ago. And they're quite experienced. We have a golf course pro, and we have another guy who takes care of the golf course. They've been doing it for many, many years. And they indicate that $8,500 is awful low for a master plan. And I believe that. I think what we're going to do is we're going to get hit with, oh, by the way, you'll have to pay another $40,000 if you want the complete plan, something like that. But why do this plan now when we don't know what the future holds for the golf course? We saw that they want to sell it, but they say they don't want to sell it, but it's listed for sale, and then they say that they want to find someone to run it and manage it, they want to lease it. So it's confusing what they really want to do, and I'm not sure they really know what they want to do. So why pay money for a master plan when the person or the company that eventually ends up with it decides, I don't like that master plan. We've wasted $8,500. So fortunately, after testimony from some of the people that work there, they finally decided they didn't know enough information, they didn't do their homework, and so they tabled this particular item, fortunately. That was a lucky break for us. Then you'll see when they talk about the 2020 budget. And I have a lot I could say about this situation. It's mind-boggling to me. But what I want you to know about this, as you listen, you'll never hear anything discussed about a budget for the country club building itself. Nothing about the restaurant, nothing about the banquets. And this concerns me because if there's no budget for that building, are they planning on selling it or keeping it closed continuously? The other thing is, you'll never hear any budget, any capital expenses allocated for fixing the promenade. So, nothing in the budget for the promenade. What are they going to do with it? Also, you will not hear And I attended all 3 budget meetings, including this supervisors meeting where they discussed the budget, and there's nothing discussed about legal fees. And I'll tell you, we spend a lot of money. We love to sue, we love to go to court. We're spending over $1 million a year on legal fees. And that's roughly about 10% of our general fund budget. We've been running deficits for the last 4 or 5 years in the general fund budget. And I believe it's going to be a big, big problem as we go down into next year and the year after. Even with all that money, when it's spent and the cow is no longer giving milk, we're going to have some serious issues, trust me. So, the next thing they talk about is the Roth Acoustics. They're going to spend $15,000 to evaluate the decibel levels out between the 2 folks that are arguing about the noise that's happening around their home. What we have here is 2 neighbors who are having a disagreement over the noise. One family, they have teenagers, they're driving 2-stroke dirt bikes too close to the neighbor's house. And I used to sell those things many, many years ago. They're very loud and very noisy. So their plan, the township's plan, is to send somebody out there for 15 grand to record the decibel levels. Well, that's an issue with me because first of all, they have to catch them doing that. So if I'm out there riding a dirt bike and I see someone out there recording the decibel levels, I'm not going to ride until they leave. So there are other ways to solve this issue. I think going with an ordinance is one way to do it. But they're going to do all these investigations and hire people to do this and that. It's like recreating the wheel because we have thousands and thousands and thousands of communities that has had to deal with noise pollution. And if they just would do a little work on their own and investigate what other communities have done, we can find a solution to this problem without spending a lot of money. It's a difficult issue, but it's not so difficult that we can't resolve it with a little more effort. And the last thing I'd like to talk about is the funding of the OPEB pension plan. It is totally unfunded, and OPEB stands for the other pension and employee benefits, or other post-employment benefits. So I believe that the unfunded liability is somewhere north of $9 million, $10 million, somewhere up there. So that's where some of that $80 million that we'll get from the sewer plant will probably go. And let's hope that we put it in the hands of someone that can manage it properly, because if you've watched my videos, you know that the police pension fund last year lost over $1 million. So that's the end of the issues I want to touch on. Enjoy the video for the meeting of October 14th, 2019. Thank you for listening to my opinions.
I know what gunplay is.
Shit, I got my own my own septic system. You know what? When they came to clean my septic system on Honey Dip or what was it? I said, you have 2 septic systems.
They told me that too.
I do. I got one for upstairs and one for downstairs.
They told me that too, and I don't.
Call attention to the October 14th, 2019 Exeter Board of Supervisors meeting. Please rise for pledge of the flag.
Yeah, they tried to tell me.
Oh, boy, this is good in my veins.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Howell, are you recording this?
Point of order, if I had a tape recorder, is this where I would be in the tape recorder?
Yes.
The police officer said this building, this room is 90 people. I don't see that this room is capacity 90 people.
Okay, you're
The
recording?
library is.
You're recording? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm recording.
Next, let's take roll call, Sam.
Supervisor O'Donnell, Supervisor Pincone.
Present.
Supervisor Casadas.
Here.
Supervisor Anderson.
Here.
Supervisor Spees.
Here. I'm going to close the regular meeting and open up the public hearing on proposed ordinance for the solar panel regulations and turn it over to Sam.
Okay, now's the time that's been scheduled for a hearing on the solar ordinance. The ordinance was advertised. It has been available for public review for the past few weeks. If there's anyone who has any comments, questions, or anything they'd like to say concerning the solar ordinance amendment, now's the time. You can come up to the microphone. Hearing no is there someone, I'm sorry? No. Hearing nothing, I would recommend that we close the meeting.
Okay, motion to close the meeting.
Make a motion to close the solar ordinance meeting. I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Before we open the meeting, start with public comments on agenda items. Mr. Joe Staub. Chief.
I can't see I can't see the chief and the rest of the people in my video.
It's not Mr. Howell.
Is it because of my big head?
Oh, you got moved.
The intent of the law is to change the intent of the law.
Wait a second. The glare?
Yeah, but he can't get a copy of that.
Joe Staub, 5010 Club Drive. John, I have a couple. Do you want me to do one at a time or all?
Yeah.
One time. There's an agenda item to approve a proposal for Cervone Golf Design for $8,500 to fair scope of work for guidance of the golf course.
Yes.
Recommend voting against this. We have resources, we have a PGA professional, we have a green superintendent, and there's a bunch of golfers in the county. I think you'd be able to do that without spending $8,500. Regarding the settlement of the promenade, check was authorized.
Joe?
Sorry about that, don't have much of a voice here. For the promenade, there's a request check for $2,250,000. Was that from the capital reserve?
Yes.
And if so, what's the remaining balance?
Yeah, that was from the...
From the capital fund,
Capital fund,
Yes.
and the balance remaining?
there's about $4 to $5 million still in there.
Okay. There were two.
425.
4 to 5?
4 and 5.
Okay, thank you. Hine Associates, there's two check requests. One is for $15,000, one is for $10,000. I know there was some confusion and concern in the community about, is the country club for sale, is it not for sale? I know part of the RFQ. Can you please explain what a check for marketing materials for $15,000 and also what the memorandum for $10,000 is, and is there additional money that has to be expended?
$10,000 for Larry Hirsch. That's his fee for finding us someone to lease or manage the course.
Okay.
$15,000 we're actually going to table. We're not going to approve of that.
Thank you. It looks like there may be a typo, unless I'm reading it wrong, for the expenses for the RCC for the month. It looks like August and the September revenues are identical. I don't know if anyone had a chance to take a look at that. The expenses are different,
It's probably
just a typo. Okay, that was it.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Next up, David Hughes. Agenda item.
So the capital fund has $4 million in it.
Name and address, please.
Dave Hughes, 255 West 47th Street.
Thank you, sir.
Has $4 million in it. Is that, and then you moved the $7 million from the sewer fund into the capital fund, right? Has anyone come up with an explanation of where that $7 million came from and what it was supposed to be used for? Okay, we're not talking. Well, we know, and we have the minutes, where it was revenue and other items in the sewer fund, like connections to the sewer, where that $7 million came from. It was in a CD. The minutes say that it's supposed to be used as a sinking fund to pay the debt of the sewer fund. And you illegally moved that out of the sewer fund to pay for the promenade. And you'll be hearing about that soon. You're going to be talking about the fund transfer policy. There's two major reasons why that should be done. First of all, The forensic audit for the Reading Country Club discussed in detail the fact that you didn't have a policy for fund transfers, and that's why everything got screwed up using capital funds for operating expenses. So what it will do is, it will be good for internal controls, and it will show transparency to the public what you're doing with these funds. I don't know what you're going to talk about on the per capita tax. I'd like to reserve my comments for when you do that, because I can't read your minds, and you haven't put anything on the website pertaining to your discussions on any of these things. There's no transparency from this board. Now, there's people out here in the audience that like to get on my case about this, but I'm trying to perform a public service to keep you guys straight on all this. I concur with the ERCCP spending $8,500 to get a master plan when we don't know who's going to be running the golf course. They may not like the master plan. So why are we spending money on a project that may become useless in the future? I'd like to, I don't know who administers who you're going to have the OPEB trust, and why can't this wait until the election is over? Hopefully we'll have 3 new people on here that know what they're doing. And I guess you're going to talk about investment management services. I have no idea what that's all about.
That's it, sir. Your 3 minutes are
And I have one more thing. I passed out a report asking you guys to remove him as chairman. And I'd like to have you respond to my request.
It's not an agenda item. We're done.
See you later, sir.
Thank you. Next up, regular approvals, minutes, September 17, 2019. Greg, what's up, Greg?
Is an RCC on the agenda?
Yes, but you didn't sign up.
Yeah, I did.
You did.
Wrong sheet.
Signed the wrong sheet. Greg, process. You're supposed to sign the blue sheet for agenda items. You can talk about the RCC now.
Clear.
It's right there, my friend. And I told people about it at the other meeting.
Yes.
You're killing me, Greg.
Come on.
But I like you, so you get to talk.
That's a great start. Greg Altier, 11 Nancy Circle. I think it's time to recognize some positives at RCC. This past weekend, we ran a golf tournament, the Woodring Cup. It's a Ryder Cup type event, and generally when you go to a golf course and you see this type of thing going on, it's basically 2 teams playing against each other. There's money at stake. One team gets the money, the other team doesn't. That's not what happens at RCC. At RCC, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia got the money. $3,300. So this year, RCC has raised $22,000 for the community. That's the golfers,
The
the Exeter.
community and the golfers. Right?
Yeah, but the golfers and the ERCCP has raised $22,000.
With the community's help. Go ahead.
And with the community's help, we have raised $110,500 over the last 10 years. So I think, there's a real positive there. And so often, we come here and we just hear negatives about Reading Country Club. And we almost close our eyes to the positives that are going on. I'm not sure how many courses like Reading could say that. The big money courses could say it, because they have people with deep pockets. But that's not what Reading Country Club is. We haven't had anyone give more than $500 at a single event to do that. $14,000 for the library over that time, $52,000 for the food pantry, Education Foundation, tips, CHOP, Blankets of Hope, Mary Shelter are some of the other beneficiaries. And we have one more event coming, the Jack-O-Lantern Classic. 21 teams will be participating. again, helping charities in the area, which is a win-win-win. It's a win for RCC because we're bringing new business into the course. It's a win because it's the last Sunday in October, and that's a day you might not get much golf. Yet we're selling the place out. And it's a win because we're helping charities. Final note, I don't appreciate the interruption because once again, we're doing something positive and you're trying to diminish what we're doing. It was uncalled for, you shouldn't have been interrupting me.
Okay.
It's not appreciated. Thank you.
Well, I was just going to mention one note. Right, the reason why I say the community was looking like pie in the face. That was the community, not just the golfers. So just make sure that.
We have this for you. You can throw it in the trash if you want, John.
Thanks. Just setting the record straight. Next up, budget meeting, September 17, 2019.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the September 17th meeting.
I'll second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next up, minutes, September 23rd, 2019.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the September 23rd meeting.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next up, approve the minutes for the budget meeting, September 30th, 2019.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Disbursements, they muted.
Make a motion to approve with the delaying or not paying the high associates invoices for $25,000.
On further review.
Upon further review, we need some more information on that.
I'll second.
Oh.
Well, I mean, technically, I'm okay with the one. I'm actually 10 to Larry.
The memorandum is 10.
Yes.
It's the Larry Hirsch.
Yeah, I just wanted to review the memorandum and everything, so, yeah, but
So it's a motion.
they're typically both, the trouble is, they're both the high associates, right?
They are both the high associates.
And then their high associates is paying Larry Hirsch then, after we pay them.
10,000 is to Larry.
I mean, I haven't seen the contract, so, I don't know.
Yeah, I would table both, just to, we could do the research.
So the motion is to approve the disbursements as amended to remove the two high associates invoices.
Yes. That is the motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next up, monthly golf report. This would be the month of September.
Mr. Chairman, this report has been both posted to the board workspace as well to the website for the public to see. We continue with strong numbers for the month of September. We hope to be consistent. We look forward to more good weather as we move into October's numbers.
Any comments from the board?
No, I think the numbers were good. We were up, I think, 500 rounds over last year, which is impressive on the revenue side. I think, a few things certainly impacted us on the expenses side. There's, some things that are left over from the closure of the clubhouse, the rental fees, some other things that really pulled down the profitability of the month, but it is what it is, so need to work on those things.
Yeah, great job, Brian and Derek. You guys do a great job, and the cutting and the maintenance has helped bring the expenses down, so we just need to continue to watch our expenses, bring up the rounds, and of course, the lovely ladies that do the gardening work has really made it a much positive environment there, so great job to you and your team.
Yeah, and also just noting on that, some of the expenses too, as we're going to talk about later, another $12,000, I believe, on repairs.
Yeah, that's coming up as part of the budget.
Mowers and,
Monthly right-to-know request.
Mr. Chairman, for the board's request, another right-to-know report has been done for the month of September. That has been again posted to the board workspace and posted for the public to see on the website.
And there were 23 requests in the month of September.
Any questions from the board on the right to knows?
Do we have a total for the year?
We do not currently. We can get one together. We're also still working with Fox Rothschild to figure out the cost calculations.
Any comment on, I guess, the response time? It varied from 1 day to the maximum, but it was a mixture.
It is. It is a various, and again, that's why we're using the description in there to help explain why it takes us a little longer to do some of the process steps. Sometimes it's collecting data. Many of these documents are not necessarily on software. They're downstairs in the basement, and it takes multiple staff people to collect those.
Any other comments on the right to knows? Jeff?
No, I reviewed it. Didn't really have anything specific. I know you said we were working on some totals and some of the cost calculations, and then a
The year-to-date.
by person total. Okay.
Next up, discussion on fund transfer policy.
Mr. Chairman, the administration is recommending that the board consider establishing a policy. We do have a slide. Jen, is that prepared?
No.
I can't hear you.
Larry, I think it's number 9 in
He's speaking in the mic.
Oh, okay. Well, we can move on. That's fine.
It's frozen.
Computer's frozen.
Jen, would you mind reminding the board of the 3 major bullets included?
Our internal transfers.
Yep.
So it states that the policy of the Board of the Administration has the authority to make interfund transfers when said transfers are approved in a budget and are necessary to reimburse respective funds for budget expenses that are made. This is also a fund transfer to a third party is authorized only following specific direction of the board to pay an invoice or obligation due to a third party. And third, any interfund transfer not included in a budget would need to be approved by the Board of Supervisors prior to the interfund transfer taking place.
Again, the administration would put together a formal policy, bring it forth to the board for review and consideration. We think that it is time that we have this in place. It is customary in municipal entities to have this policy.
Consensus from the board.
Yes. Much appreciated.
We will move forward with that.
Discussion on per capita tax. Mr. Hughes.
For the board's request, the administration did meet with the tax collector. Just wanted to clarify that there are different ways that the tax collector collects information for the per capita, including renter information from each of the rental complexes in the township, along with a report that comes from the school district that provides him with individual names of children who have enrolled in the district. The only thing that the tax collector felt was not represented was a group of individuals who the tax collector does not have a source of information from, who rent single-family homes or townhouses and do not have children. So if you're not in a complex and you don't have children, those are people he's having difficulty finding information on. That was the general information brought.
Any other comments on the per capita tax?
Did he have any estimate on like how many of those types of situations he thinks might exist?
I do not have that data.
Are we following up on the supervisor that hasn't paid or...
Mr. Hughes, Mr. Hughes, you had your comment.
I said I would reserve it for...
You can talk about
So
it
as a
after.
reminder, the tax collector is the person responsible for collecting the per capita tax, not the board of supervisors.
That's not exactly true.
Mr. Hughes, no more interruptions or you're going to have to leave the meeting. Any other questions from the board on the per capita tax?
Now, I just would comment that I think the more we learn about it, it is difficult to administer fairly, and knowing everyone that's getting it, getting a mailing, where it should be going, and make sure everyone is treated fairly in the township. The amount of money that's collected, you know, I'd prefer to see it done another way or eliminated, but, you know, I guess we're not talking about that right now, right?
We will
Just
come to
commenting.
that. Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent, thanks. Next, approve amendment to investment management custody fee agreement with BB&T for employees' pension plan.
So Mr. Chairman, the representative from PB&T came forth. They oversee our employee pension plan. They have good news for us. They are proposing a reduction in the fee. Currently, it's 1.05% of assets. They're going to reduce it back down to 0.81 of assets. This would allow us a change in the savings of the plan of $4,782 annually. Obviously, the administration highly encourages the board to consider this amendment to our existing agreement.
Motion?
Well, what caused this? Was this just us asking them to kind of give us a better deal, or?
We did not ask them. They approached us. They are always in search of additional business from us, and this is their way of trying to entice us for additional things.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those approved? Ayes have it. Next up, approved proposal of Cervone Golf Design in the amount of $8,500 to provide a master plan for the RCC. This will prepare a scope of work that we'll use to provide the guidance to the board with respect to the needs of the golf course. The reason why we wanted to do this was this is only to the golf course. It's not to the castle or anything. This is going to help us get something professional for when we find a lease or whatever we decide to do next year, a lease or operator. It's something professional that's going to help us lease or manage it next year once we find a provider in the first quarter of next year. So I think, I like your point, Joe, but I think it's something more professional than just a couple people from the township doing it. So I support it for that reason. Larry recommends them. He says you need a master plan to be able to go out when we find a lease or management partner. That's my opinion.
I would ask, like, Brian and Derek, what your guys' thoughts are on this, just given that you're the experts in this area. Like,
You want me to stand up?
if you want to, that would be great.
I'll help you.
Say your name.
No, you
Brian Aaron's 5450 Old Turnpike Road. I've been looking at master plans for about 10 years. I've recommended them for the last 4, fallen on dead ears, and all of a sudden we have to rush this through. I don't know that this is the time to rush something like this through. This is more significant of a process, and please, this is more significant of a process to the future of that property than you all might think. So it is not necessarily just a golf course thing. It is the entire property. It has nothing to do with the capital, the
golf course.
However, it has to do with the driving range, the potential for a hotel, the potential for a second access, the potential for everything. And $8,500 is extremely low for all the research that I've done. And I don't really trust it. So I don't know that, acting this quickly is that necessary. I think I would really urge the board to do a little more research into these type of things and maybe make some more contacts, because
I know we made, 2 or 3 different?
I think there were 2.
My contacts would not be to architects. My contacts would be to the golf courses that have already experienced this process, and with this individual and the other individuals that have bid on the process. So that's my feeling. And 26 years in this business, I have a little more feeling about this kind of stuff. I see that number and I'm like, how?
But would you wait until, what would your ideal solution be?
I would do more research, and I would, every architect that does this type of stuff has a portfolio, and they'll have a list of golf courses and clubs that they have worked with, and their experience and their depth of experience that goes along with it. Without contacting those clubs and understanding what type of work they went through, how can we know what we're in store for? So I really think it's important to, maybe just pump the brakes a little bit and not rush this through. And I understand it's something that we want to go forward with a prospective leasee, buyer, whatever you might want, but it's a significant situation where it is a master plan, which is a long-range improvement plan for that property. So I don't think it's something that should be rushed. I think, the board may need to do a little bit of research on this, and I'd be happy to do some research on it. I just haven't had any time, and I didn't know the situation until about 3 or 4 days ago.
So Brian, you think we do need one, but
I think
not
we
the
do
rush
need
into it.
one, but I think that we should probably screen the candidates and get some background on them before we really move forward on it.
I know last year, about a year ago, we approved Panoni to come in and do master plan of the whole site with the roads, and that was around $40,000. I think Larry is an expert in the industry. He's been doing this for like 40 years, and he recommended to do a master plan, and particularly recommended this person. I think 4 requests were put out to companies, and 2 came back, 2 didn't respond, I believe. So I think I would vote on just delaying this until maybe we could get Larry to talk to us or give some reasoning for why we should do this right now. And this proposal, I think, says it would have it done by the end of this year. So the couple drive, I think it's 3 visits to the golf course.
Are you familiar with them at all?
I've never been to the course.
I've never heard of it. And in all honesty, our time frame is not the first quarter from my understanding. Our time frame is going to be kind of dragged out a little bit. This is something I think we want in place, but we can also take the screening of the leasees or potential leasees, potential buyers prior to us enacting this. But this can also be something that we can wrap up in the next 6 weeks. But I don't think any research, to my knowledge, no research has been done. Nobody's reached out to me, to say,
I think
hey.
it was Larry saying that, hey, this is...
Sure, and I understand that, and Larry's been on the course one day in his life.
But he agrees with you that it needs to be done, but...
Yeah, and I agree too. I think this is a great thing. I think it's something, but I also think it's something we gotta pump our brakes on it and just say, hey, what is the best fit for a 100-year-old golf course? So that's where I'm coming from.
And maybe we could get Larry to
Have
talk to us.
Larry come talk to us. That's fine. So we could table this for a couple weeks.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Want a motion to table it, guys?
Eric, did you want to say anything?
But just to let you know, a little background, the guy says he was involved with another Alex Finley golf course, so it's not, which is a architect, so I'm just saying, I'm not saying we gotta do it right now, but then we might actually come back to this.
Yeah, oh yeah,
ask the guy to do it, so.
Absolutely.
He's might be the one to do it.
Right, no,
I'd
I
like
agree.
more information. I
They're
really
really
would.
good.
It was very impressive, I agree. I mean,
Yeah,
his resume is, there's a lot of people.
They
out
did
there
look pretty
with
impressive.
resumes.
We may end up going to them anyway, but we could do our homework.
Sure.
It definitely needs to be done.
Just want to add, I think it's a great idea to go, do more research just to check out what everyone would say or suggest to us. But what it'll really do, it'll boost marketability in the whole southeastern PA area. So that'll help business as we go forward down the road.
I mean, having a master plan.
Yeah, yeah. Once the word gets out that Reading's doing stuff to the course, making it better and everything, you'll see flocks of people coming. So it'll be good for business.
Good, we need that. Thanks.
Thanks.
Make a motion to table it. Lynn.
I'll make the motion to table.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It was approved. Ayes have it. Next, discussion on 2020 budget.
Mr. Chairman, the administration could use some direction from the board to be able to draft a preliminary budget for you to review next meeting, which is the 28th. Particularly of concern, would like to have some feedback on the homestead exemption. And I'm happy to go through, there are about 9 items that we need clarification on. I'm recommending we go through them one by
Go through
one.
each one, and guys, we're looking for consensus here, no vote. Consensus for the admin to get the preliminary budget complete for 2 weeks.
So thoughts on the homestead exemption? Homestead exemption?
I think I think it's something that, we've talked about and planned for.
Part of the sale.
Consequences to it, and we have to make that up other ways in the budget, but.
Part of the sale of the sewer plant was we would give the homestead exception, so what we said to the residents, so I think that's a yes.
Elimination of the per capita tax?
Yes. It's a nuisance tax, and again, part of the sewer plant sale, we want to get rid of it.
I would just like to, I think it would be good. I just think we should maybe talk a little how it maybe impacts, our elected official there, but other than that, I think it would be good.
Yeah, I'm for it.
How would you mean the tax collector?
Tax collector,
Mhm.
who's revenue. Because he gets paid per
Per
transaction.
tax bill.
The acquisition of the in-car cameras for the police department.
I think it's a great investment.
It's an insurance policy, and I think it makes sense.
I definitely think, and I like the fact that you can build onto the system. It's a sustainable system, and then, like I said, hopefully in the future, body cameras and stuff like that. I'm definitely for it.
The hiring of 4 police officers to fill vacancies within the police department.
Yeah, this is due to the retirement of several officers coming up. So this was part of the saving the money with the new contract that we had with the police officers. One of the things that we said that we would do is invest back into the police department. So this was one of the things that we would be able to hire more officers as part of the savings on the new union contract. So I'm okay with this.
And you definitely have a good amount that applied.
Yes, we had a lot of interest from local residents and people as far away as Florida in this position. So I was really pleased with the turnout, and we're in the background phase now. I think we'll have definitely have a list that we will fill those vacancies filled with qualified applicants.
How soon do you think we could get 4 new officers into the training program? Like, do you have an estimate, like a time frame?
So the next, if they need Act 120, which is the certification, you need to be a police officer. The next Act 120 class is in January. So we do have some applicants that currently have their Act 120, so we'd be able to start those individuals as soon as January 1st.
Okay, great.
I think it's well thought out with the drop program. We know what's coming.
We'll be well prepared there as we've been planning.
Good. The additional $80,000 contribution to the fire company.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the offset of the Homestead Act.
I mean, I think they do it.
On the fire department, so this makes them whole.
They do a great job for this township, keeping us safe, and I think we have to make sure they're properly funded.
Well, they were on at the fall festival, and I mean, they just was great. And they do simulate like a smoke in a room for kids, and just helps them. So if it actually, God forbid, ever does happen, they might have a little preparation for it. So I think they just do a fantastic job.
Yeah, they're always involved in the community, and obviously their main job. They just do such a great job with that, and you don't really hear about them unless it affects you or someone close to you. So I think we definitely have to take care of our fire department.
Next is the additional $5,000 contribution to the library.
I think that's like a no-brainer, but in my mind.
Yeah, I think they're adding new content. Every year people are using it. I think we're going to have some service electric training through that or something.
I heard that. I heard Mr. Goldberg will be attending. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think the library is great. As the director said during her budget presentation, it's become more of a social destination in Exeter as well, which I think is great. The staff's great, the building's great. They have a lot of great material you can rent, computers residents can use. I think they're doing a great job with it.
Great. With that,
Next is the lease of the golf carts and mowers.
Brian, did you get the rates for the lease?
We're still working on it. The quote that we sent out to the bank, and then they can quote us the
Or are you
rates.
going as a short-term lease?
Yeah, it'd be like a 5-year lease.
And that's for the golf carts.
The carts is a
For
5-year
both.
lease, definitely. We have the terms on that. The equipment, we're working with the bank right now.
And the golf cart, we're going to raise $15 to $17, you said, to pay for them,
I think the carts are great, the $2 increase as well.
as long as they get paid for.
Did we look at any, change of control clause in that lease? I know we've all...
Did you, Derek?
Mostly, every rep that I talked to, kind of like I said at the last meeting, they just said as long as you have that in your lease agreement, when it changes over to somebody else, unless you have that in there, that you're taking on the carts, they said everything should be good to go.
So we just have to make sure when the lease agreement with the operator is done that it includes.
Covers that.
Right, it's the same with equipment, right? It's just a
Transfer's easy.
add-on to whatever, your rent, whatever.
It would be factored in the same as if you owned it now. But, I think this year was a good learning. I mean, we spent nearly $30,000 repairing the old carts, which are 10 years old, and That's the price for new carts, so it's same as having a 10-year-old car. The greens mower, I think, was a great example of saving on labor and actually, of course, looks great with the new mower. So, I mean, safety-wise and focused on what things should be taken care of.
Are we taking away some fun that Brian's been having fixing all this stuff? I mean,
Why don't you talk to us?
Don't forget about Larry.
Yeah, right, Larry.
but, and then
You'll be more productive.
the only other concern was if, like, just say someone's gonna run the course and they don't want the carts. That was the only other concern we kind of had, that, you know, might be a possibility, but can we at least look at to get an idea for that?
I mean, we can, if we were in a position we were transferring it, we can negotiate something, you know, typically they would assume the lease, that would be part of it, if there was an existing lease, so, I mean, that's something that could be addressed as part of a...
Right, but I'm just saying, say they didn't want the carts.
Right.
And then they had their own or whatever,
Then again, that, we can negotiate that, you know, if that was...
That would be the change of control clause.
rides at the township. Everybody got the cart to ride around.
And there's always a buyout with the company if worse comes to worse.
That's right.
Right.
Same as your
I
car.
mean, there will be a way to solve that for you, yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
The increase in the fee schedule?
Yes, those are just the lights, fire hydrants.
No, the fee schedule are
No,
the
it's for
Parks
the-
and Recs
Okay, gotcha.
items, the golf rates are in there, will make some changes to the engineering rates.
Yeah, I think they all looked appropriate.
Question on one? I thought.
Was the trout run, field run, or that wasn't in what you're referencing now, was it?
That is in
Oh, okay. We're gonna take that out about the game fields not being available when you're at the practice field? Because I talked with Laurie about that. So when I coached football there, when it would get dark early like it is now, we would bring the teams up to the game field and turn the lights on for what's called team period. So there would be 2 teams on the 40 going into one end zone and 2 teams on the other 40 going into the other end zone. And Laura didn't really know, I mean, she hasn't coached football, so she wasn't aware of that dynamic. So that's a,
Football coach, Lori?
it's a real, it's a really important thing to a football team.
Laura, you want to address that?
We talked about that at the last meeting.
Come up to make sure everyone can hear me. This is a little tall for me, but that's okay.
Just pull it down.
Where you can stand on your tippy toes.
I could do that. Bigger shoes next time. There we go. So yeah, we talked about it. If the board would like that to be taken out, I'm okay with it. It's just that the reason I put it in is because of the maintenance. We don't have the staff to maintain the fields as often as we would like to. So my only concern, and the reason I had said that is because the game field gets lined once a week. So I was trying to avoid it being destroyed before a game happened because I know we won't be able to maintain it again before a game. So if everybody's on board with that, I'm fine with it. It's just that the maintenance schedule won't be able to
Just tell them
change.
that it may not be as maintained.
Well, no, this is what they do now. It's the same as the future. So nothing's going to change. That's what, remember Mike had come over and said, he lines it now and they do this now, so it's not going to change.
Yeah.
From a durability standpoint, that field with that many kids on it will not hold up.
No, we've done this every year. We don't
understand.
practice on the field. We do the drills and everything. Hold on. We do the drills and everything, and then we just come out, and we don't do it every night, and we only do it towards the end of the season when it's dark now, and then we just do the team period. So it doesn't destroy the field.
That itself would not destroy the field. However, I can guarantee you that the practicing does happen on that field. And perhaps it's the township's responsibility to maybe say, hey, keep an eye on it. But we don't want, and honestly, the football team is the 90% of the usage of that field. I don't think we've had lacrosse in 2 years. However, I have seen the deterioration of that field, and you know where they are. It's between the hashes from the 30s in.
Right.
We don't want the football team to come back to the township and say...
No, and they won't.
you know,
I talked with Jeff McCusker. He's the president of the organization. He has been for like 10 years now. And again, what they're doing now is exactly what I'm saying we need to make sure they are able to continue to do in the future. So like, nothing's changing from their standpoint.
Right.
And I can even talk with them and just be like,
Yeah, and I'd also say to Jeff, hey, Jeff, if the field's soaking wet,
well, no, they don't. We didn't do it every night. They don't
No,
do it
I
every
know.
night now. Because some nights, so like what would happen is different teams would discriminate each other. But if one team's not working out well or missing key players, they won't go against the other team.
Right.
So we're not saying like, hey, we're going to practice on the game field every night of the week the whole season. That's
Yeah.
not it at all.
Right.
But we can't have a clause in there that says if you rent the practice field, you can never use the game field either.
No, I
That's
understand
my
where you're
opinion.
going. I'm just
Yeah.
going through the overall condition.
Right. And again, this is what they do now, so the field's fine now, the way we line the field is fine now, so nothing will change in the future.
Okay.
If anything, they probably would use a little less, since the microscope's gonna be a little more dialed in now on it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
You're gonna communicate that to the golf.
Football.
For the football? Yeah. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I mean, it's, again, it's what they do now, the field's fine, lining the field is fine, everything's fine, so we don't really need to change it in the future, because it'll have a big impact on the
Make sure
program.
that they understand.
We have almost 400 kids in that program now, between flag to midget varsity and cheer. It's a huge, it's a feeder program for the junior high and freshman teams, and then obviously it helps with the high school. They run the same offense from flag all the way up, so Exeter's obviously built a great program, and the youth program's been a big part of it, and, Coach Bauer comes down every year multiple times to work with them, and, I just want to make sure the integrity of that program continues. And
Yeah, just make sure they're aware of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brian said.
Yeah. I will, I'll go down. Might start coaching again.
Unless it's soccer, then they can do it all night long.
Okay, so with that minor modification, we'll move forward. Defeasing the taxable debt of the Reading Country Club.
The taxable debt, yes.
Yes.
Which is the portion of the Reading Country Club.
Yes, I mean, I'm definitely in favor of not having the argument at the end of every year whether or not you're fulfilling that obligation. The debt service would then basically be covered, and you can do a long-term plan, based on operations of the course, making money, reinvesting money, getting equipment you need, and keeping it running until anything changes.
Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of that, or not paying at all.
Jen, do you have those direct numbers?
4 million?
It's gonna be 4.4 million to defease the two notes,
Gotcha.
taxable notes, the
So
two
they're-
taxable notes.
So it's not the entire course, it's the taxable 4.4 million, so the public knows.
Yeah, I'm in favor, just those two taxable notes, nothing else.
I think it keeps some accountability. If you sell it off, then someone will be like, well, you don't know anything, just, then they'll do whatever they want. So I definitely think it keeps us accountable for it.
And that's from the proceeds of the sewer plant sale.
So those are the 9 items. Thank you for the clarification. Now we'll seek authorization to prepare the 2020 preliminary budget from the board.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. New business, adopt ordinance further establishing solar panel regulations. This was the hearing that we just had.
Motion?
Yep.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Next, adopt resolution authorizing payments to 3 pension plans. The payments to the 3 pension plans are as follows: police, $462,000, employee non-union, $65,000, and employee union, $156,600.
Need 3 separate motions or just one?
Sam?
It's one resolution.
With one.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Next, 3, 4, 5 kind of go hand in hand.
Yes.
Direct solicitor to prepare documentation to create a trust to manage the township OPEB requirements. This is
Make a motion to create that trust. Oh, you want to explain? Or I think it's obvious.
Sure, the administration does, we need to have the documentation prepared should we decide to take the proceeds from the wastewater treatment plant to put them into a trust in order to manage the OPEB requirements. So that includes creating the trust, advertising, getting the periods together. So these pieces are all getting that in alignment. So again, the first one is just to direct the solicitor to prepare the documentation for the trust.
I'll make that motion.
A second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next, direct administration to advertise for residents to fill the positions on the police pension and OPEB trusts. So here we need to advertise.
We do, the township needs authorization to advertise to have public residents to come in to serve on the local police pension and the non-uniform employee pension, and then the new OPEB trust will also require. So there'll actually be 3 positions in total that we'll be seeking to fill. We would seek clarification after we had the advertisements.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. And we need 3 residents for that?
That is correct.
Okay.
And so we'll put the advertisement together for that.
Excellent. Next, authorize request for proposal for investment management services.
The trust, along with the documentation, would obviously need somebody to actually do the investment management services. We would request proposals for investment management services. So we're looking for an authorization to request for proposal on investment management service.
And this may or may not be one of the ones managing one of the current
That is
funds.
correct. It does not have to be the same.
Yes. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. I know a lot of people are here for the noise ordinance, so I kind of want to get to you people now so that we could talk about it with the topic coming up. So Patty, Simone, and Marcus, the folks on Friedensburg Road. I'll let you guys go first, and then Bruce, are you here? You want to talk with them or after them? Okay. So, do you guys all want to talk, or are you guys going to just have one spokesman?
I have my own talk.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Just give your name and address, please.
My name is Patty Moravich, and I live at 123 Old Friedensburg Road. All right, I just wanted to make some comments about the proposed ATV ordinance. I have lived in Exeter Township since 1991. That's when we bought the farmhouse. And we bought the property, and we have 4 children, our 2 girls and 2 boys, and our boys now are 16 and 15. Simeon is my one son behind me. The boys have been riding 4-wheelers and dirt bikes on our nearly 7 acres for the last 7 years. Because they ride in the same circle and approximately 4 feet wide, the dirt track it does exist on our property. The track is fully contained within our property lines. Ironically, the inspiration came them to ride on our property was the Huberts, who was our next door neighbor who actually had a go-kart on their property. Their son had a little go-kart track on their property as well. The go-kart track that they have is about 10 feet from our property line, and the Huberts are now complaining about my boys, but only after the Shades moved in about a little over 2 years ago. Simeon, my son, competes at amateur motocross events in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Maryland. From the young age of only 13 years old, he has worked as a mechanic's assistant at a local repair shop in Exeter Township. This valuable work experience has enabled him to perform the maintenance and service on his motorcycle in our attached garage. Simeon, occasionally with his brother or friends, will test out their motorcycles on the dirt track. Neither Simeon nor his brother or his friends have ever ridden. They're not even up before 9 a.m. or after 8 p.m. They typically ride a few times a month, often times simply to prepare their bicycles for the next trip or track. It costs a lot of money to ride bikes, so they like to know their bikes are working before they go race. They have to pay the entrance fees, the gas. Usually these places are an hour to 2 hours away to go. And they typically test their bikes around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon is when they ride. In addition to riding on our property, the owners of the adjacent property, now owned by the Shades, Simeon and his brother were allowed to ride on the dirt and gravel pathways on the Shades property. So prior to the Shades owning the property, my boys were allowed to ride on that property, which is, I think, about 60 acres that are owned by the Shades. However, the Shades, since purchasing that property, object to our boys riding on our own property. In fact, when the Shades house had an open house, my boys were riding that particular day. The realtor was there as well. We had never had a complaint before the Shades moved in. However, the Shades then canvassed the neighborhood looking to prevent my boys from riding on our own property. The Shades themselves have a 4-seater ATV, which they ride on their own property, and can be heard from our property. I cannot understand how 5 or 6 neighbors can change what has been permitted in the Exeter Township for nearly 30 years that I have lived here. In fact, an Exeter police officer admitted that in his 24 years on the force, he has never heard of anyone getting a ticket for riding an ATV or a dirt bike on their own property. Yet he cited my son. After at least 2 other officers said my son was not breaking the law, why was my son cited? And I'm not sure if because Mr. State's law enforcement. I have law enforcement in my own family, so I don't know if that's the case. So how can 5 or 6 people speak for over the 25,000 residents of Exeter Township? Are you planning to ban snowmobiles? Also other ATVs, smaller ATVs? We've heard them for the past 30 years. And also, we were actually called, they called the police on us when we used the tractor out back, which I don't understand that either. And this is Berks County, so we have a lot of tractors here. And I don't know if they're also looking to ban gas leaf blowers. Weed whackers create a lot of noise. And sure, this restricts, I'm not sure if you're restricting the times that they can ride. I'm not sure what the ordinance is going to be proposed. But please don't take the rights for us to use our ATVs and motorcycles on our own property. Additionally, I was completely offended, and this really breaks my heart, that they think we're being abusive to our animals. ATV and motorcycles are commonly used to herd animals. I used to live in Colorado, and it's actually an effective way to herd animals is by ATVs and motorcycles. And I actually have a picture. I don't know if you've ever seen this done on the internet.
I think I passed it around.
Sure. This is just one example of
Look at it.
an ATV being used to herd animals. Our horses are used to the sound of the ATVs and motorcycles. I've owned one of my horses for over 20 years. She's actually almost 40 years old. And the other 2 horses for 8 years. My son was only rounding up the horses to put in the paddock so they can ride. Sometimes they are stubborn and need to be herded to the paddock. Riding near the horses desensitizes them for trail riding and makes them a better trail horse. And yes, they do like to kick up their heels sometimes. They are a bit sassy, especially the 40-year-old horse. She's actually a miniature horse. So do you have any questions for me?
No, thanks for the comments and
Sorry.
the clarification.
I teach kindergarten, so I'm used to like little kids, not talking to big kids, so I'm sorry.
That's perfect for
Thank you, thank you.
Go ahead, sir. Just name and address.
I'm
Please.
Simeon Maravich. I live at 123 Old Freemasburg Road. I'm here regarding the information. Got it.
Just go ahead, name and address.
Simeon Maravich, 123 Old Freemasburg Road. I've been riding on the property for about 7 years now. We've never had any issues before with any other neighbors. Just now, the last 2 years that we've been having issues. And regarding to my reputation, the last meeting, they informed you guys that I have hid from the police and I have a lookout, which is completely false. I've spoke to the police officers that arrived at my property every single time personally. I was the first one to speak to them. Besides that, like my mom said, they have a UTV that they ride on their own property, which they have over, I've rode back there, there's many trails that, very, like if you show guests or something, there's something, recreational, per se, for sure. I'm trying to think about anything else to say, sorry.
Is the one motorcycle, I think is mostly in particular what we've heard is, like it's very loud. I mean, I heard that the ATVs weren't as much as a issue, but is one loud? Is it just because of it's for more horsepower or?
Generally, yes. I mean, motors that make more horsepower make more noise. It's not anything that exceeds, too loud or nothing that's, extremely loud or irritating. Before they've said that you cannot hear someone talk. Me and my friends, when riding right next to each other with the bikes running, we can hear each other clearly talking to each other right next to each other. The ambient noise around my property is very loud as well. There's, traffic's right there, the road's right there. There's the gunshots from the gun club are considerably loud. You can hear them pretty much every hour of the day. It's not the most serene, it's not the most quiet area per se. I'm not quite sure what the exact decibel readings are of the ambient noise, but it was something around 70 or something like that. I'm not sure. Anyone else have any more questions?
Dave? Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks for the words. Next, Mike and Jackie, do you guys want to respond? You guys could either go one at a time or together, whatever works for you guys. And then you also, is Bruce, is that?
So this is John, who she
Oh,
just
it's fine.
mentioned, so he's wondering if he can say something.
Sure. Just tell him, just give his name and address so we have it as a record. And then Bruce, did you want to wait until they're done?
Sure.
Okay.
Just Mike and Jackie, Shade, 115 on Freedensburg. I've been a resident of Exeter since 1986. We moved to Old Freedensburg. We stayed in the township just about 2 years ago. So I've been in this township a long time myself. I take a little offense to we're the new people. We're not the new people. We seem to be the villains here. We're just trying to get peace and quiet. When you have a dirt bike that's 50 feet from your house, and there's a jump right aside your house, and they're cranking up as fast as they can to get over that jump, you can't hear anybody talking. You can't sit outside. The purpose of why we came here tonight, one of the things was just to follow up with what we discussed last time about the zoning ordinance as to dirt trails for non-motorized bikes. We just didn't get clarification on that. We were on the understanding that we might get clarification in a timely manner. We did. So that was one of the big things that we came here for. I don't want to get into a big dispute with neighbors. That's not why I'm here.
Yeah, I mean, our next step was the next agenda item. That's why I wanted to get everybody's
understand.
comment now with Roth Acoustics.
On
And we'll
behalf
explain
of
that.
the neighbors, though, so the petition was 27 people and 13 homes. And everybody isn't nuts. Everybody isn't. And
More than 5.
The woman that sold the house to us, the people that know them best said she sold it because of this. So, and there are a lot of people there's a lot of older people who have expressed to us that they're just kind of afraid to say anything because of the connections of the family to, they just feel like they're not comfortable with that. So I don't think everybody is wrong.
Could you just expand on that last comment?
What last comment?
What you were just saying, the connections to the family, like, not sure exactly what you mean there.
So I can just say a lot of the older people weren't, like, they're not comfortable coming. To say that it doesn't bother any of them isn't true. A lot of the people aren't comfortable coming here. Some of the people saw how I was treated in court, and a lot of normal people don't really want to go through that. We don't really want to be here. We just want peace. We know what a decibel meter is. We know how to use one. Somebody can tell us one that's reading 90 is only reading 60. It doesn't make it so. So there's a lot of people that we didn't go around and try to get. There's a lot of people that are very upset. We cannot hear one another talk. We have people over. You're in the backyard. You can't. It doesn't matter to me what somebody else says. It's what is true in our home. And so we gave you guys a copy of the petition because that was our neighborhood trying to say, hey, can we get some help? They did, a lot of people say they just don't want to come down here and talk. So, and then John wants to say something because I guess he had the...
Yeah, it was brought up that I had a go-kart.
Could you just do name and address, sir?
John Hubert, 75 Whately Road. It was brought up that I have a go-kart that was 10 feet off the property. That's false. It's 50 feet and it's a lawnmower. It was a lawnmower engine on a go-kart, not a high-powered motorcycle. There's a huge difference from that motorcycle to a gardening tractor on a go-kart. I mean, there's a huge difference.
Got it.
So, I mean, it's a no-brainer here.
And we're not aware of anybody that called the police about a tractor. Oh, and our UTV is, and I think you guys, when we weren't here, you said that you're carving out for you. It's a utility vehicle. It's a John Deere Gator. It always has been. It's registered as one. It was bought at a John Deere dealership Somehow when we were in court, the young man was testifying that it wasn't a John Deere and it was meant for joyriding. I don't know. Again, we're just talking about ourselves. We have this gator we use for the property, for maintenance of the property. It becomes irrelevant. It's just if it, I don't know what we need to even say anything, but it's just sort of ridiculous. Do you have anything else?
Any questions from the board?
So we as a group are still looking for the help that we asked you guys for.
Yep, and this is the great starting point that we're going to talk about next. Bruce, did you want to talk about the noise ordinance?
Bruce Bechtel, 5931 Boyertown Pike. I was just hoping for a little clarification about what ATVs, UTVs are falling under this. Where's the cutoff?
Yeah, we still have two. Nothing's approved yet. We're still kind of going through it. One of the things we want to do tonight is approve that piece, is to get the sound folks out from the company that we want to use based off the vote that we're going to take in a couple minutes.
Okay. We're farmers. We're one of the few farms left in the township. They're tools for us. We use them every day. And we'll use them at 5 o'clock in the morning. We use them at midnight if we have to.
You'll use what?
ATVs, UTVs, snowmobiles, whatever we need to check our livestock.
I do recall that it said if it's for the maintenance of your property, it's not included in that ordinance.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, sir. Any other on the noise ordinance? Folks,
Well, and I
signed
had a
up.
couple of other ones that didn't sign up that also had some concerns of just, because their kids ride their ATVs and their bikes on their property, and so and they haven't had any complaints where they're at, but they're also concerned about if what we're setting here is going to affect them as well.
So next up, Michelle, we want to approve an agreement with Roth Acoustics for professional services.
Right, so the administration is seeking the board's approval for an agreement with Roth Acoustics for professional services. This, again, has been loaded to the board's workspace. This would be to both assist us with the noise ordinance and the ATV ordinance. So this would be both. The administration is recommending that the board approve this agreement.
And they will come on site, interview all you guys. They'll come, I think they're going to have the sound decibel too, where they're actually going to measure sound there. So I think it was November timeframe.
That is November, and we were asking that the board consider not to go over $15,000.
Yeah, I'm spending twice as much. We would for a master plan.
It was pretty expensive per hour, but do we have an estimate on what he's?
I don't have that. Again, it would depend on, hopefully we can provide enough preliminary information between what residents have provided and what we've seen from the chief and here at the board. We should be able to give them a lot of preliminary information.
Yeah, Chief, you have any comments on the topic itself?
I think one of the big problems here is with the sound level. So you have to have an engineer come out and establish what decibel readings are appropriate. One of the problems with the current verbiage in the noise ordinances that we didn't have that survey done. So I think it's an important step to have the survey done, and then that can be used as a basis for the ordinance.
So I'm all for data, and I love that we're going to do something quantitative. But are we equipped, so if we set a baseline basically with the sound engineer, are we equipped then afterwards to measure against that baseline?
Yes, so we'll have the ability, then we have a decibel reader, so we'll have the ability to.
And is that done manually, or is something that can be in place to sit there and gather data over time?
Well, one of the problems that the officers have faced before is when they get the call and they get there, they stop riding the bikes. So it's hard to measure the sound then. So it'd be one of those situations where we'd have to get out there and be able to actually measure the sound in order for it to be.
But like major cities and stuff, it's just like your speed cameras. I mean, you can put up a camera that monitors it for like a month or something and gathers data.
Well, we could look at that. That's a possibility that we could look into is having a decibel meter planted there that can measure the sound.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to the speed cameras, and then you could have it up for months and just say, hey, the average reading And I guess my one other question would be, when the sound engineer comes out, I mean, I imagine that he's going to check different places, create his own sounds and say it's appropriate to have this
Right.
level.
At all the properties around there.
Right, the ambient noise discussion.
Like, just real quick, so the trail is like 50 feet from the property, but then how far is the house? Like how,
Our house is 50 feet from the property line.
oh wow, so it's 60 acres though, just having it fall right there.
Yes.
Okay,
If you had 60 acres and you were riding, if you had property that didn't abut everybody else's homes,
no,
nobody would even be here.
right,
It's the sound, it's not the usage of your own property, it's that it's emitting a sound that's harmful to people on adjacent properties.
right.
I mean, you can do simple research, so I listened multiple times.
You got to come up with this.
All right, go on.
More than just a high.
Bill Parch, 370 Pathfinder Drive. I have no things in this fight. However, I do have a four-wheeler in my garage. I do ride on my property. I have a very small property. What I would say is go do some research. You can do, there's many reports out there. And I did that. So I went home because I didn't know what a dirt bike decimal was. Depends if it's a 2-stroke, 4-stroke, it depends. However, what I found is that lawnmowers and dirt bikes are very much the same, to be honest. And weed whackers at full throttle are actually higher than dirt bikes. I can send you guys the reports if you wish. I'd be more than happy. It's on the Michigan Sound and Engineering Research Department. I would just go do some research. Because we could waste money, unfortunately. And I heard 15,000.
That's a lot.
Not to exceed 15,000.
We have other issues that we need to do in this township and worry about ATVs. I'm sorry. And, it seems like the family's been there, they've ridden them. Obviously, if you buy a property, I moved back to this, I looked at my neighbors, I did research on my neighbors before I bought the property. It's not like that track wasn't there, is what it sounds like. So, that's my opinion. I just don't think we should spend $15,000 or any amount of money on a dispute over something that can simply be done by doing some internet research about sound decibels of the two things that they're arguing about. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, and then my only other concern with, is, give it 5 years, the kids are in college or whatever, is an
But
issue.
you're not making an ordinance for one person, it's for the township.
Right, that's what I'm saying, so you just want to make sure, what we do is going to affect everybody.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak? Name and address?
Just so we're clear, I've recused myself from any discussion or work on this matter due to the fact that, as I've disclosed at prior meetings, John Maravich is my partner, is one of my partners.
I'm Christine Anderton, 30 Whitetail Lane, and I'm in the back just kind of watching. It's my first meeting. In looking at how much money it's potentially going to cost the township, has anyone looked into other municipalities, their policies, what levels they're at, come up with that? I'm sure if you contacted the Maraviches, asked them to ride it around their track with an officer to record it, and then have some kind of mediation with the other family to come up with maybe times when they can ride it and when they can't. I think maybe we can have a peaceful ending.
Yes, we have, appreciate the suggestion. We have reviewed through other ordinances of similar situated townships. Keep in mind that this is not just about the ATV, it is about the noise ordinance, which obviously has larger issues than just ATVs within the township. Because ours has found to not be strong enough to stand up in court, this is something that we need to do either way.
But have we reached out to other municipalities to see what their
they're posted.
standards
Right.
are?
Yep.
and-
Yes, we have done that. Yep.
All right.
No, it's a great suggestion. Yep.
Thank you.
We're not making the ordinance specific for the property.
No.
Noise ordinance.
There are multiple issues we're trying to address.
Yeah, you could go up and give your name and address, please.
Michael Miller, 1030 Cervone Road. I've been dirt biking and ATVing all my life, sad to think. And now I'm hearing you guys want to pass a law that affects everybody, even a club I belong to, which would be to go to MC. All right, you would be affecting that club, who pays a lot of taxes, over a dispute between neighbors.
You know, the kids are outside exercising, doing things with themselves, instead of sitting in playing video games, getting brainwashed, stuff like that. You know, the other fellow was right. Weed whackers and stuff actually do make more noise than a dirt bike. Now, you could pass an ordinance saying that we have to have, there's inserts you can put in the mufflers to keep the sound, you know, and then he can remove it for a race, if that's the case. But, you know, you're basing a study in one section of the township that's going to affect thousands. So I hope you guys take that into consideration. You're affecting everybody, not just one family or two families.
Could you expand on the thing you said about the muffler being muffled?
Well, there's like a stuffing you can put in, like we even use it when we go trail riding for spark arresters and stuff, and it just brings down the decibels a little bit, type of thing.
Has that been discussed between you guys at all, or is that an option, or?
So this is,
I would be considered to.
Okay.
this is about the noise, correct?
Yeah.
It's not, I think this is getting.
No, I'm saying if they use something to bring down the noise, would that maybe help?
So again, this is kind of getting, so we actually have a decibel meter, so regardless of what somebody tells us to look at on the internet, we can tell you how many decibels.
No, I'm not, maybe I didn't make myself clear.
I don't know, because
If they lowered the decibel level of the motorcycles, would that help you guys with the issues you're having with the noise?
They
already say it's low enough to begin with.
But let's just say they made it lower. Would that help? Like it wasn't as loud, it lowered the decibel
I
level?
understand what the meaning of the word lower is. I guess what I'm saying is it depends on how many decibels. And
Yeah.
the reason why everybody has noise ordinances is because there's a certain, what's considered noise above a certain level of
Right.
decibels. So
Well, you're literally saying what I'm trying to say to you. If that level came down to an acceptable.
How many decibels you're talking about?
Well, I don't either, but I'm just saying, we're trying to talk and see if maybe there's something we could do without, because people have concerns about spending all this money, and now, obviously, weed whackers are affected, leaf blowers, the farmer gentleman who uses his, stuff to work. If the level came down, would you guys be okay? If it came down to a low enough level, would you be okay with it? Or are you looking to just have no motorcycles running at all?
I don't agree that weed whackers and everything are, because again, if you're in our yard and you have a leaf blower, a lawnmower, it is not, it doesn't matter what if somebody tells me it's not the number of decibels it still is, because I have me tell you that.
We're not saying, they're saying it's at certain decibel. We're saying if it could get lowered down,
I don't know.
would that be
I don't know.
an option? Okay.
So taking your measurement, if it's 70, if it's 90, whatever it is, if it's low, say your decibel meter says it's 90, if we could get it to
An acceptable
70
level,
or 60, is that okay?
If they muffled the bikes, would you guys be okay with it, or do you just not want them riding at all?
It already would be a violation.
Back to the noise.
Well, that's what we're saying. If it wasn't as loud as it was, would you be okay with
The
it?
ordinance, so it stands up in court, but isn't that where we?
Well, it's a tough thing to regulate, because when you set a noise ordinance, it's not just like, okay, those kids aren't riding those bikes next to our house anymore. It affects other residents who don't have people complaining. It affects weed whackers. It affects farmers. It affects leaf blowers. So we're trying to figure out if we can maybe do something, I guess, that would be more feasible for the whole township, as opposed to like one group trying to shut down another group. Like, we're just trying to see if maybe there's something we can do with this. Does that make sense or no? No good.
So there's going to be two ordinances. One, we're really concerned about the overall noise ordinance, and that's mainly what the professional services are for. That makes sense?
This one's more separate from that property.
So you're gonna be doing it throughout the whole township then, and not just at that one spot to make a,
That is correct. This would be a township-wide review.
and then keep in mind, like I said, now I can bring the whole Pagoda Club here to petition too for this, because you're affecting and trying to control everybody else and pushing likes or dislikes on somebody else over a decimal or two. So, I meant.
That's why the administration went back to recommending we have a professional come in and give us advice. We need to have somebody who's a professional in this industry to tell us where to go next.
It's also about controlling other people though, too, and you have to keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
You know?
This is the first step of the process. We haven't done anything in terms of long-term yet.
It's still a free world, I hope, so.
Yes.
Always. I mean, the ordinances that you looked at in other municipalities,
That's
the
actually-
trouble is that they vary, and how do you choose?
Right, and which ones actually stand up in court, right? It's not just writing an ordinance, it's one that's actually going to stand up in court that the chief can actually use. We don't want to waste anybody's time and make false promises. And just for clarification, it's not just volume, right? It's duration of time that we're talking about as well. So,
And it's not just volume of a dirt bike. Somebody could be
I understand.
standing there with a blowhorn.
Correct.
This is not about
It's
us.
decibel level.
It's a decibel level. The reason why you limit decibels is because it's detrimental to people's health. It's the decibels.
I will say, I share in the slippery slope concern. I have 4.5 acres. We've cut down over 50 trees to combat lanternflies, and we run the chainsaw all day long. We run the leaf blower all day long, this time of year, so.
There aren't any of
I
those
would-
with
I would
decibel
just-
meter that would have even registered.
I mean, I don't need hearing protection to ride our ATV, but I do need it to operate my leaf blower. So I just share the residents' concerns on the slippery slope of the other stuff.
again, why we go back to recommending a professional come in and give the board advice on where to go next.
I think it's money well spent.
I would think, can we have steps in between, not approve $15,000?
No.
If it gets to $5,000,
We'll get updates throughout the
Correct,
process.
I'm required to put a cap on it so that you know that we can't go past that dollar amount, so we pick the number. But yes, we will of course do everything we can to limit that. So I need
I'll make the motion to approve agreement with Roth Acoustics for professional services not to exceed $15,000 with periodic updates.
I'll second.
All those, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Last item, new business, approved proposal to acquire software package managerplus, the amount of $59.15 for fleet management services. Part of this will be a $2,000 grant that Larry was able to get. We talked about this during your budget presentation, Larry.
So Larry did this in his presentation. This is fleet management software that we are recommending. Because our insurance company offers a discount program, we can have a $2,000 grant available to us, but we need to use it by November. So we're asking for the board's approval to go ahead and acquire this at this time to make sure that we can use the grant money.
Yeah, with all the vehicles that Larry has now, I think this is something that you need, and it's a great tool for your purpose to help you manage the fleet.
So do you want to have a motion?
Yeah. Want to make a motion?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Department reports, Clarence. Chief.
Just one quick thing. I'd like the township residents to be aware of, again, we're getting a lot of scams that are being reported to the police office. One of them that's recently hit here is a social security scam, in which a scam artist will call you and say, hey, I'm from the Social Security office. Your Social Security number has been compromised. It's been used in the commission of a crime. I need you to pay a restoration fee, and then direct the person to go to a Target or Walmart, purchase gift cards. And you laugh, but unfortunately, we had someone here in the township that was hit for $10,000. So again, if someone calls you from the Social Security office and advises you that your number has been compromised, please call us so we can verify that that's true and correct. We don't want to see anyone lose any hard-earned money that they've worked for.
Chief, is it impossible to track these people back?
If we can make an arrest, absolutely. One of the problems is they're calling from scams numbers.
Right, and I understand
Yes.
that, but is there a phone service that carries that number? That you can go after the phone service, whether it's Verizon, AT&T?
Yes. So what they're using apps. They're using apps to spoof their number when they call you. So there's not really much we
Okay.
can do. We're trying to work with the big box stores to let them know if an elderly person comes into the store and is purchasing these large amount of phone cards, to give us a call, so we
Okay.
can go out and investigate to make sure that they're not being a victim of a scam.
Okay, thank you.
Could we even do something with I mean, is Walmart, I mean, I don't know if they're allowed to, like, can't they even say, what are you buying this for? You know what I mean? Like, just to even ask, like, what are you buying it for?
Believe it or not,
Hey.
sometimes that has happened. We'll get a call from the store themselves if they start purchasing a large amount of cards. And that's just someone who's kind-hearted at the store saying, hey, this person, something's wrong here. And they'll go and talk to the person, and then they'll give us a call. Sometimes they're too ashamed to admit that they've been a victim of a scam, and they don't want us to investigate. But that's why it's important that we put the information out there saying, hey, if someone does call you from the Social Security office and saying that you're a victim of fraud, please give us a call so we can take a look at it first before you send anyone any sort of money.
Yeah, it'd just be a shame, because like, I know, like at like if you go to a scrapyard, if someone's bringing like a big thing of wire, they take a name and number and all that, but then they'll also call around to other, if we get wire stolen, we'll call them up and say, hey, you gotta look out for some wire that comes in, and so I just thought maybe, like even Target and all that, could just have it, maybe, is there a way to reach out to their management, that maybe have it as one of their protocols, maybe they'll just, tell people, hang on, we just gotta check the give you guys a call at least, just to, I don't know, just.
Yeah, it's a matter of working with the store management, and hopefully they'll do that. They realize too, they're making money off the cards too. So some of them are, but it is trying to build a rapport with them, saying, hey, if someone comes in the store and they are purchasing a large amount of gift cards, to try to give us a call.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chief. Mr. Rakowski, engineer report.
Just a couple, two minor items. Perkiomen Avenue is proceeding with the overlay. We did have a progress meeting 2 weeks ago and discussed so many punch list items. However, I believe our progress meetings have been terminated at this point. The overlay has been being completed as we speak during the evening hours, at least the portion that's located in Exeter Township. But I am still in contact with the PennDOT, so if there is any issues, I can reach out to the gentleman who's handling the project. At this point, pretty much just final restoration, hoping everything wraps up by the end of the week, at least for our portion, and then the remaining would be proceeding into Mount Penn and towards the city. Norfolk Southern, unfortunately, I don't have anything to report as far as start date. Sam and I just spoke before the meeting. We'll reach out and see if we can get a more firm date of when they're going to start, but we haven't heard anything so far. That's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Well, I know on Perkman Avenue, it was brought up to my attention, the driveway aprons were supposed to be concrete, and they're not, they're being macadam, and then they're saying that that's going to now be part of the Perkman Avenue project, because they're saying it's hard to match up the concrete to the sidewalk, which I understand, they're going to have to rip that out, so.
We were instructed that the original plan was to have concrete put back where concrete exists prior to the project. However, you're correct. What we were told by PennDOT is with the sidewalk into the township, replacing that sidewalk as part of the street enhancement project that's going to take place hopefully next year, that there would be some elevation differences, and they were afraid that putting back concrete, the new concrete would have to be ripped out. So in essence, they're going to have to put macadam in, and then the concrete will be installed as part of that project. I passed that information. I'll double check with McMahon, who's performing the design. I know I try to communicate between the two parties so that they're in the loop, but I'll make sure that they're aware of it.
Yeah,
They should be, but I'll just reinforce that.
They'd like to make sure it's in writing.
Okay.
There's been a lot of promises.
Okay. I'll follow up.
Thank you.
That's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Questions? Good. Sam's solicitor report.
Just a couple of things. The PUC entered, the Public Utility Commission entered a final order approving the sale of the sewer system. That is scheduled tentatively to close on October 24th. So one of the things that needs to happen, I was speaking earlier today with the council, the bond council from Eckerd Siemens. They would like a resolution entered by the board to permit the redemption or defeasance of the outstanding sewer debt, which will occur after likely within 30 days or approximately 30 days after the sale closes. So assuming it closes on the 24th, then whatever 30 days from the 24th is, the debt would be redeemed in this instance or called. So I did prepare, or had prepared, a resolution that would permit the use of a portion of the funds received from the sewer sale to redeem whatever the outstanding bond debt. I believe you'll know better than I would. I think it's 14 million.
Is it 17?
17, okay. It's somewhere between 14 and 17 million. We can have the exact number at the next board meeting. But that will have to be redeemed pursuant to the terms of the bonds at some point after the sale occurs. So I'd ask the board to consider a resolution permitting use of certain proceeds of the sewer system sale to be used for purposes of redeeming the outstanding bond debt on the sewer system.
You need a motion?
Need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. That's it.
That is it.
Thanks. Michelle, do you want to say something?
Yep, actually, I'm going to have Laurie stand up and talk a little bit about the Fall Fest that occurred on Saturday at the Daniel Boone Homestead.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to talk about. So yeah, we had Fall Fest on Saturday. It went great. We've been watching a beautiful slideshow I put together earlier this afternoon, so you can see what we did. But we had a great day. We had great weather. We had over 1,000 people attend. We think that number was probably higher, but we had food trucks, we had music, we had games, we had activities, we had a huge turnout. It was a really great day, and everybody had a lot of fun. And it was really a true team effort. The whole staff really worked together to plan the event. It went off really well. The highway department did a wonderful job helping me set up, and they really took a lot of time. And they did a wonderful job, and they spent a lot of time on it, so it was really great.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Appreciated by me.
Yeah, great job. You guys all did such a tremendous job with that event.
We had fun.
Yeah, it was
We're happy
awesome.
with it.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I was there, just supporting my wife and the daughter were doing face painting, and they were like
she's up
nonstop.
here.
Yeah, she's up there.
Yeah, that stand was packed.
Yeah.
All
It was
day.
awesome.
Yeah.
The hayride was great. We rode around that.
Yeah.
Barrels, yeah.
Sometimes you forget that facility's there.
Mhm.
It's just an amazing scenic area. The mill was cool. The dam, the steps that make a dam. Just the whole thing was awesome. I mean, you guys did a great job. My vote is we have it there next year. I know we're a ways off with that, but I think if we keep building on this and promoting it, it becomes an annual thing and people know it's going to be there and they know within a couple weeks of when it's going to be. I think it could be an amazing event.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the biggest signs to me that we knew we did something right at this point was people were coming up to me all day saying, how can I volunteer to help you
Yeah.
next year with this? Or I want to be a vendor. So it was really cool.
I probably talked to 10 or 15 vendors / tables that were there, and every
Yeah.
single one of them was happy.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, we're going to be back, we're going to tell other vendors, and I mean, it was just an awesome event.
Yeah, I think it'll be great. I'll admit we had a little bit of a challenge getting people, vendors to commit, because it was the first time we were doing it in this format. Nobody really knew what we were doing or if they could expect a lot of people to turn out. But and now that we had a successful event, I think it will just continue to grow.
Excellent, great job. Takes time, and credit to the whole team that helped. Thank you. Public comment. David Hughes. Various items. Public comment, Supervisor adjourned.
Real quick though, would you like to repeat what you said to me, you were mouthing to me for public comment, or?
What are
is
you
that just
talking
me?
about?
Oh, okay, we're gonna lie. You're calling me an idiot
I'm
at the
taking
seat.
up my 3 minutes.
No, I'll give you the extra time, but you're gonna sit there in the seat and call me an idiot. You can do it at the microphone if you'd
I
like.
was talking to someone sitting next to
Really?
me.
Looking right at me? Really?
I'm looking at everyone. Is there something wrong with you, Vinnie? Are you paranoid about something?
No, I heard it too.
Right.
All right,
Of
David.
course you did.
David, make it quick.
I'll give you 5 minutes.
Go.
Okay, first I want to talk about the budget, where, you said you were going to talk about what you were going to do with the clubhouse. That's never been discussed in a budget. You talked about maybe some things to fix up, but the budget hasn't been discussed. And you never talked about the fact that for 2015, 16, 17, and 18, you've been running negative budgets. You spent more than the budget was. And I don't know what's going to be for 2019, but you never reviewed your spending for 2019 to set a budget for 2020. Maybe in your alternate universe, you do it a little bit different than most people. I also asked a question about the bonus that I heard the rumor that Granger and Ed Gillette of EEMA, that you guys are planning to give them $100,000 bonuses each when they finish this deal with the wastewater treatment plant.
That's a
Well,
lot.
I just wanted to throw it out there just in case.
And I want to say, stop spreading that.
No, I heard the
Yes, 'cause
rumor,
you're
I'm
wrong.
asking you, so, it's my time?
You're wrong.
You can comment when
You're
I'm
wrong.
finished.
Go ahead.
Okay, so also, I wanted to find out if, Mr. Cortez, remember I had asked you in a previous meeting to announce if you've given the Board of Supervisors their training in the Sunshine Act, has that happened?
Has happened.
I'm asking him.
He wasn't there.
We had his associates there.
Yes. It's been complete.
You can ask him, yeah, go ahead.
That's correct.
Thanks, Mr. Cortez.
That's correct.
Yeah. Finally, I gave each of you a document about removing Mr. Casadas as the chairman of the board. I gave you examples of why he should be removed. He attacked 3 citizens of this community in the Reading Eagle. He doesn't have the demeanor and the intelligence to be on this board. And I'm asking you guys to consider removing him as the chairman of the board. We can't move him from the Board of Supervisors, but we can remove him as the chairperson. So I'd like to know if you're going to answer my request. Is it going to be no?
No.
2 guys are running for election.
I just want to thank John publicly for all the good work he does in the community of Exeter.
Okay. Would you like to thank him too? One last thing. When were you going to tell all of us about the $1 million that you lost in the police pension fund? When were you going to tell us about that?
I don't think there's anything lost in the police pension fund. It's invested in a 65-35 multi-quarterly. It can go down year to year, but it is up.
Well, then you
since then.
should look at the 2018 audit report
Okay,
from
dude.
our auditor.
The fund
Lost $1
is...
million. It's on my website. You can even look at it.
Okay,
I
Dave.
explain
Dave,
everything.
It's returned over 6%. Over 6% over a 15-year period annually.
Lost the 1 year.
Good evening, Michelle. How are you?
Good evening, that's fine. I'm pretty tall. I have several questions concerning the bus,
Name
the
and address, I'm
budget.
sorry. I need name and address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, Michelle Kircher, 1101 Stonehenge Drive. First of all, for the budget meetings, we didn't have any type of list or anything to follow through. I'm not talking about what was shown up there. It would be nice to be able to have that so we could see and go through everything with you. Also, when we talked tonight on the discussion on the 2020 budget, it would have been nice to have everything listed out so we could follow through with it. I think we all have a right to know what, no, it just says discussion on, and there wasn't a full list on here.
The website has the budget.
Yeah, it just is nice. Also, when you have listed on the agenda for next ordinances or next resolutions, that they can be posted so we can look at them beforehand, so when we can come in and see if there's any questions on them. Also on your website, you have 10 polling places.
There's 11.
11.
Yes.
Yeah, so that needs to be
And then
corrected.
Lorraine changed to the apartment complex.
Correct.
Correct.
And,
I thought you fixed that, Lorraine, actually. That is fixed? That was because I sent you the info. Yeah, that's fixed, but I will check.
well, I
this
was
one.
on it quite a bit lately.
Okay.
I check it all the time.
Yeah, because I sent her the update, so I think that's been fixed, but I will double check for you, Michelle.
Okay, thank you very much. And I just want to make sure that you're more transparent, to make sure that everybody gets the information when they come in here. and see it, have it in our hands to make sure that we all get to have the information here to ask the full questions. Especially like you did tonight with the noise ordinance, which was very nice to hear that people have the opportunity to speak when you're talking about it. It went well, and then you could go on to the next subject. So again, I would ask that you change that to that. And that's all that I have.
Good stuff. Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle.
Next up, my friend Carl Schemberg. You were talking about cable? It says.
My mind's blowing after this. I'll find something I'll talk about.
Name and address.
Carl Schemberg, 207 Lisa Lane, still. The noise ordinance, are you familiar with two-cycle and four-cycle, how it works?
I'm not a...
They're complaining about the motorcycles being loud, but they're two-cycle, weed whackers are two-cycle. All two-cycles don't have exhaust on them, they can't. The ATVs are all four-cycle, they have exhaust and it has spark arresters, that's why they're quieter. Just give you a little quick thing on that.
Thank you.
The earned income, not earned income tax, but is it the?
Per capita.
Per capita tax. If you're eliminating your $5 on your part of the tax, we're still gonna get a $10 tax from the school.
Correct.
It might go to 15.
Might.
So you're not, probably won't save us any money by taking your $5
That's,
off.
the school district has to approve that, not us.
Oh, they will, come on, they want money left and right.
Don't tell them, they might.
Joe's not here, I can't say anything.
They might not
right now.
know. Don't tell them.
The other thing is the cable. I spoke to Jeff briefly at the last meeting. He spoke to Kutztown when I said investigate Kutztown because there's a competition between Service Electric and another cable company to see if the rates are cheaper with competition. Are the rates cheaper with competition?
Well, there's kind of a different situation there. So Kutztown had their own cable company. Service Electric had it, so Kutztown brought another company in and let them use their lines.
Right.
So the other, it's a West Coast company, it's called like Vadun or something.
I don't care about those details there. I just want to know if Service Electric is cheaper than we pay
Yeah,
here.
the problem with competition there, because we had a meeting on this about a year and a half ago that I attended. Competitive cable companies don't want to come in here and put in their own lines because Service Electric already has the lines in here. It's not worth the investment to them. That's the challenge that we're dealing with. That would be great if we could get them, find a way to.
They just don't think they're gonna make
They don't
enough
think they're gonna
money.
make
So
enough.
like, they look at the return on investment, it's not high enough. And then even if the return on investment is high, they look at internal rate of return. And if they can make 5% on the money they invest in Exeter, but maybe they can make 8% somewhere else, they're not even gonna do it. So there's two key ratios we have to get past. And the other thing with Exeter, and this is on my report, I actually spoke with the lawyer that worked on our franchise agreement, so I had an update for you then.
Oh.
But it's 50-50 in Exeter. So 50% of our population is basically dense enough where a cable company can make some money. The other 50% is more rural. So a new company looks at that, that situation, the 50-50 split, and the return on investment and the internal rate of return, and they say it's not worth it to us. Plus, you have the 5G movement and the wireless movement. So to get a company like Sam said now to invest in the infrastructure here it's just not going to happen, or they'd be here already, basically.
Keep trying.
No, I appreciate the effort. I called Kutztown because of you, but
Three emails
Kutztown
about
had another
wireless internet in Exeter Township. Join us, do this, and that. There's other options out there to get internet. It's just, I need to talk to them a little bit more.
Well, so Service Electric is the only cable landline internet option for most of Exeter. There is Comcast and another one in small parts, but you can also get it through the satellite companies. So it's not the
It's a
only
phone line company. If you don't have a phone in your house, they can still use the existing lines that you have in your
Well,
house.
some people, I'm talking about this with people on Nextdoor, and I saw today that some people have Windstream internet in Exeter.
Right, I got one of those too.
So there are other options out there, it just depends where you live and if it's satellite or landline.
Now, another question. The franchise agreement, where is that? Is it on your internet?
Yes.
No, it's not.
Which franchise?
It's not. I checked on Monday. I even called there. We went through the steps to find it, and nobody could find it.
It was on Monday morning at 8 a.m. All right, we'll send you the link.
I talked to somebody named Jennifer.
We instructed Michelle.
Is this Jennifer or the other
At our
Jennifer?
town hall, we said put it on, that's on.
Yeah,
I couldn't find it and she couldn't find it.
We're happy to send you the link.
And then when you go to put a TV out there, so I don't have to stand all the time. We need something. Look at the audience here. Yeah, it's getting worse. They're here, you know, there's
There's a seat right there.
Right here.
I don't think I'll sit there. I don't sleep with the enemy.
Wow.
All on the same team, Carl.
Question about the trust numbers there. The service electric agreement. I mean, are there townships,
All quiet, guys.
are there townships that negotiate with, say, service electric and not make them share their lines, but say,
No, they're not going to.
you can't do it.
We're not gonna do it.
It's the Cable Act from 19... Yeah, they don't have to, yeah. It's a federally protected thing.
Next, William. And then Mr. Fairbanks.
Stay on my toes. Bill Clark, 251 Shelbourne, PA. I want to know, country club buildings, are they habitable? The last meeting I was at, they shut them down because of contamination.
Mold.
Are they still shut down?
The one room is open, the
The ballroom's open.
The ballroom is open.
And the locker room.
The contamination's been remediated. I think they're still doing repairs on certain, not mold-related repairs. They're still doing more.
The wall.
Yeah.
So you're telling me there's no molds in any of that building? Is that what I'm hearing?
Tell me that's what the
That's
experts are saying.
100% mold-free.
That's what the
What the experts
certification
are
is.
Said they did it.
yeah. It's been remediated, but nothing is 100% mold-free. There's mold in here, there's mold
You
everywhere.
had a wedding there recently, you had a couple golf outings. We've had weddings and golf outings there, so.
It's been open. There's been an expert who signed off on its habitability. That's all, you know, that's what the board relies on.
Next thing I want to bring up is the promenade. You know, the history of the boards in this township, be the school board or this board, has a very checkered problems. I mean, I remember when the school board was embezzled, what, 7 million back in the early 80s, not 90s? Oh, yeah. Their head man was just helping himself. But here we're buying property left and right here, or selling property, one of the both. But I also remember when the school board was going to buy that castle on the hill there.
Yes.
Part of University
Penn State Health is on that. Yeah.
Part of,
Penn State Health is there.
no, it's not Penn State anymore, it's University of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they're in talks of merger.
But they were there. And they're already buying that property for $6 million. 9 months later, it sold for $4.5 million to somebody else. And it was only because of Mr. Foskoff standing up there and said, you have X number of employees that are going to use that building. And he says, you divide that by square footage, and you're more than twice my office, and everybody in my place could fit in there with my office space. You know?
Yeah, and I think the
So
other
people, oh, and then the best part, because 2 months later, there's a rumor that part of the realtor firm was related to a board member.
Yes. And part of that was the school board had existing buildings that were sitting there vacant, so it made 0 sense for them to buy that building.
It didn't stop them from trying.
Yep, agree.
You know, there's lots of things people in this township says makes 0 sense, but it gets pushed through. Because I was involved with crocodiles running across my property, and I tried to get an ordinance about exotic animals,
Yeah.
and nobody went, oh, we don't have one in Berks County. Nobody has them. Well, Philadelphia has them, Delaware County has them. Matter of fact, Philadelphia has the whole county. They're allowed. Delaware County has it for the whole county. But we weren't allowed because God knows why. I think somebody had some animals they wanted to keep. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Fairbanks?
Fred Fairbanks, 28
West 34th Street. Two quick items. First, I wanted to commend the Highway Department. I had emailed Mr. Rowe about a parking sign on 34th Street that was incorrect, and by the time I had made it home from work that day, the sign had already been replaced and taken care of and the truck was gone. So I think it was a total of 4-hour turnaround on a parking sign. That was great. My second comment is regarding the Fall Fest. I echo what Lori said. 99% of the way. Highway Department did a fantastic job. The hay rides were great. The vendors, food vendors were delicious. Maybe a bit expensive. Maybe we could look at some school board or boosters or some other maybe cheaper alternative. Otherwise, it was great. My 1% complaint, though, is to ask if we are allowed to or did vet the vendor tents that were stationed as local businesses.
Could you tell me a little bit more about what you're referencing?
Yes, so I was working a tent myself with my employer, and we were shocked to find a brochure from a neighboring tent that, if you opened it up, was quite explicitly adult material. And I don't think that the stand itself, what they had publicly displayed, was explicit in any regard, but the content that they were also selling in those brochures was not appropriate for...
Was it Pure Romance, by chance?
No.
Because I had them at May Days, and unfortunately I had to have them leave because they were on school property, and Superintendent was about to come, so I actually took care of that at the event I've had planned for May Days. But I think that type of thing might be more better.
I'm trying to think, because I was walking around all
So,
day.
it was a vetting process for the vendors. I'm sorry that that did occur. That is certainly not the impression we want to have for a Fall Fest for anything in our township. So I do appreciate the feedback, and we will certainly look into that matter.
I can follow up with you afterwards to
Great.
And the other thing
let you know who it was.
is the
Thank you.
CBD oil, I guess, another controversial thing. Some vendors wanted to come at May Days for that, and I said no to that.
It wasn't related to that.
Okay.
Yep. That's all. Like I said, 99%. Fall Fest was fantastic. I didn't, but I can smell them. They smell really good.
Ridiculously good.
The donuts.
The donuts.
Oh, I ate one of them, they were awesome.
That's all.
Supervisor reports, we'll start with Jeff.
Yeah, so I mean, I touched on it a bit, but just some updates from Service Electric from our town hall that we had. I spoke to the lawyer who worked on the franchise agreement, and the first thing I asked him about is getting a Service Electric representative available for another town hall, because obviously there were a lot of questions by the community. So that is in the works, and we are going to do that, and they're going to discuss service level agreements, speed of service, and customer service issues. And then the other update was about having Service Electric broadcast our meetings. Basically, what the part of the franchise agreement that addresses that basically says like that they would talk to us about doing that. The part it doesn't really address is who's going to pay for it. And after about 20 minutes of him explaining a lot, I said, so how much is this going to potentially cost us? Because they would have to run an inline, they call it, and just all this. So it could be anywhere from 10 to 100,000 when you run the lines, have a film crew, all that type of stuff. So I mean, it is possible, but I don't know if we can talk about in the future. But we're going to have to try to figure out. I don't know how many views we're getting from any of the other places our meetings are being posted, but it sounds like it'd be expensive, so we don't know if there's that much of a demand for it. Just the other thing, the Fall Fest was great. On the way home, I stopped in the Birdsboro Senior Living Facility. It was a really neat business. I talked to the new owners. They took it over about 3 years ago. Senior Living Facility has been discussed a lot at our meetings. They're actually licensed to have 20 residents, and right now they have 13. So I asked them what we could do to help them, and they said just to try to get the word out. So they said that's been the biggest problem they've had is, letting people know that it's there. It's neat. It's tucked back in the country. Had a real cozy feel. You walk in and there's a living room, and I was watching TVs with some of the residents. So if you know anybody that might be looking for an option there, I recommended they talk to realtors, because a lot of times
realtors are involved when somebody sells a house and moves into a senior living facility, so they're out there. So that's pretty much all I had.
Thanks. Vinny? Well, I mean, everybody's just echoing the Fall Festival, but, also, you say how many of the township employees who were there, just who donated their time that day, and, some live in the township, some don't, but I can't echo enough to all of them, and I just said that, they are truly what makes Exeter a community. They really do so much. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Just two quick ones. One, I think, the comment came up about reviewing the preliminary budget. I think with the information you have today, that will be posted for everyone to review the Friday before.
Yes, and then we'll have the discussion on Monday night.
And one follow-up on, we had the discussion with, I think, Roth Acoustics. Maybe a not solution, but if we could ask for that sound engineer to maybe propose or present us with a project plan before he gets started, so we can kind of estimate and track the progress. That's it. And happy to see that we're getting residents on the fun of the pension boards.
Karen?
Nothing today.
And I'm good. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.